Mike, I want to hone in on you first, which is to ask a difficult question here. But over the weekend, I was just sitting here watching last week, announcement after announcement coming out of 2GB, the station that employs Alan Jones, Ray Hadley, lots of the biggest names in talk radio in Australia, right? Titanic radio station that's owned by Channel 9. Now, there were some concerns, there was some worry that the lefties at Fairfax were afraid that they were going to sort of catch a current affair, that somehow sort of that low rent stuff was going to end up poisoning the way that they did their business. And 2GB thought, well, you know, we'll kind of power on, right? #1 radio station, #1 breakfast show. Well, the activists and the idiots have of course, gone after Alan Jones. And they're slowly but surely starting to get some wins out of management, making life even tougher for Alan Jones, where, as we know, basically put on a final warning after the Jacinda Ardern thing. This is after they just re-signed him for 2 years. And we learned today that there's going to be a content review of the Alan Jones breakfast show. I don't know what that means, but the code is not very good for a bloke who is a once-in-a-generation performer, and I would say that if he didn't work at Sky News too. What do you think, Mike? What's going on?
Well, I think that the people who are managing the talk station really, I suppose, don't have the stomach to manage a talk station. Now, as far as Alan is concerned, and the headline you're referring to today says something like, if 2GB kill Alan, do they kill 2GB? The simple answer is, yes, they do. Alan is the tentpole for the radio station. Without Alan, they do not have the same station. Remember, radio stations are really just addresses where you can find certain things or certain people. And without Alan, there is nobody in that organisation to replace him who will get anything like the kind of loyal listening that he gets. And frankly, they would have to rebuild the whole station, and there's nobody in the station at the moment with enough expertise to do that. So goodbye, Alan. Goodbye, the ratings. As far as the sponsors who are cancelling, if you want to be in the talk radio business, it was suggested to me by somebody who's been in it for a long time that if the sponsors cancel, you say, OK, cancel, we'll go to your competitors and sell them those same ads at half price. At least take a tough stand.
Well, also what's counterintuitive here, Jenna, and I know that, you know, Alan Jones, Sydney phenomena, but you spent plenty of time in Sydney. The truth is that if Channel 9 thinks that slowly but surely they find a way, they get rid of Alan Jones, that all of those advertisers that pull out will remarkably return to the station and the money starts to flow again. I'll give them the tip. Not one of those sponsors will return, because all that'll happen is there's a giant cheer on Twitter and then they'll just move on. They move on to something else. What do you think about, you know, look, you know, I mean, talk radio and combative talk radio that was perfected in the 90s, grew in the early 2000s, sure, we're running towards 2020. But to me, it seems very weird that Channel 9 bought something and then didn't want to do anything with it, even after they re-sign this broadcaster for another 2 years.
I think the really interesting thing is, Paul, is that if you read between the lines of all of the notes that the content director and the chairman have sent to sponsors and concerned parties, there's a lot of corporate doublespeak in there where they're having workshops about behaviour and content. And as someone that has been through these quite a number of times at a number of radio stations, not much happens other than you can maybe check your text messages, you can get through emails that you might not get through. It's basically taking a box for HR and things like that. So I don't think there's a lot to worry about. We could keep a calm head about it for now. But I think the fact that Alan Jones is a very reasonable gentleman, and I think he's agreed to these content reviews. So it'll be interesting to see how things change. But I think one thing that we have to also keep in mind is that the people behind the scenes of his shows, like all of the producers and stuff, are hard-working people that are just trying to get a leg up in the industry. And he's given a lot of young people that in just a number of years.
Yeah, I mean, Chas, you know, I don't know what happens to your security pass depending on your view here at Channel 2 when you go back there to make Planet America. But, you know, like, you're a not-so-secret fan of talk radio. It doesn't mean that every person in it is perfect and doesn't overstep the mark, all the rest of it here. But to me, it's pretty obvious what's happening here, and the sort of wokeification of corporate Australia, fine. But if your business is owning an asset and you've got the number one thing in the number one town, what do you do?
Yeah, look, I think that General identified the key aspect here, which is Alan Jones is very hard to change. As far as old dogs learning new tricks, he's a pretty old dog, and he's on live TV. He's on live radio. You can't control someone on live radio because they can say whatever they like. So the question is, apart from ticking these boxes, which obviously make no difference from day to day, do they want to live with Alan Jones or not? If they don't want to live with Alan Jones, then, as you say, why did you buy the station? And secondly, what's next? Because I'm not sure radio is kicking a lot of goals at the moment. It reminds me a little bit of when I was a kid and I'd chew bubble gum. When I got sick of it and the flavour went out, I'd roll around sugar and go again. I feel like radio is on about the sixth dip of sugar at the moment, and it's really on the fumes. And Alan Jones is one of the very few people who still attracts listeners. So if you give Alan Jones a flick, what is your plan to replace him? I'm not seeing it at the moment.
Well, I think the word replace is a misnomer. I don't think you can for people like this. And look, we talk about it because I just think that they are foolish to think that they can replicate that success. Talk radio, talk television is based off loyalty, and people who've been around for a while, they like to start their day and end their day in a certain way. And when you choose to watch people like me or listen to people like Alan, we really do appreciate it, and we understand how passionate you are in doing so. So hopefully the people who end up paying the bills of Alan Jones can work out that in the end, the listeners, they every few weeks via ratings say what they want. Yeah, Chas.
Paul, can I say one thing that annoys me about this kind of process that we're talking about, what you refer to as the loonies and the activists or whatever. What bothers me about this? I understand the free market, right? And I understand that you need to respond to your market, and if you're out of touch with them as an entertainer, you lose. I know this very well as a member of the Chaser, that you can't lose your market, all right? I understand that. But the thing that annoys me about some of the people in some of these instances is the bad faith. When they try and take someone down, not because they're outraged, but because they see an opportunity. Now, when someone crosses the line and they outrage you genuinely, absolutely try and take them down. But if you're sitting there just looking for a slip of the tongue or a particular phrase that you think, oh, now we can get the guy, that bothers me a little bit because I feel like that's an abuse of the process myself.
And also the people who are outraged never listen to Alan anyway. It all comes off Twitter.
Well, correct. That's the thing. They don't listen. They don't listen to that. They don't watch shows like ours. All the rest. God love you, Chazzy, as well, for saying that.